Hey, and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now. This is the show for entrepreneurs who realize tomorrow never comes, so you have to disrupt your now. My guest tonight, Charlynda Scales, we met right at the beginning of the pandemic, right as the shutdown was beginning, and she had a newborn baby, and it was just like the shit was hitting the fan everywhere. But Charlynda, she told me at that time, my rock bottom has a trampoline. And I just loved that because even though things were hitting her from every direction, she was not giving up and she was determined she was going to make everything work. So now, fast forward 3 years or whatever it is, and Charlynda she's a serial entrepreneur and she has a new book coming out called Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline. So y'all have got to read it. And welcome to the show, Charlynda.
Hey, Lisa. Long time home.
I know, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. I miss you. I miss you.
I know, I miss you too. And I forgot to tell y'all that Charlynda is one of the 50 entrepreneurs in my book, Disrupt Your Now. So people who've read that or who've watched past episodes, you might be kind of familiar, but you still probably are not caught up with everything going on in her crazy life. So,
Wow.
Charlynda, for the people who are not familiar with you, will you give them some background of where you came from, how you got to where you are today, and then we'll just fly from there?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'm a country girl from the hills of Tennessee, born and raised in Cookville, as we call it, Cook Vegas. And I am a fourth generation military veteran. My family has served in every branch except for the Coast Guard, now the Space Force. But I started out my journey as an entrepreneur. My granddad left me a recipe. It was just a piece of paper for a recipe of a sauce he made in 1956. So it's like,
Mhm.
I would say barbecue with some bonus. Like
Yeah.
you can use it for a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was on active duty in the Air Force, stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and got some mentorship and decided to take the piece of paper and turn it into a bottled product. So we've been selling Mutt sauce now for 10 years. 10 years.
It's crazy that it's been that long, but and y'all, it is delicious. You have to try it. It is so good. And she has different flavors. I like all of them, but to me, the classic, the original is
There you
delicious,
go.
but I do like all of them. So, Charlynda, one of the things that I love about your story is that every time somebody who knows everything told you you can't do this, you're like, watch me do it.
And I'll take a picture too.
That's right. So, do you want to share some of those things with the audience? Because I know that everybody gets so tired of people telling them what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
And it's great to get advice, but we also have to learn to trust our own guts.
Absolutely. Well, it was a big leap of faith for me. I started out feeling really unqualified, Lisa. Like,
Mm.
there's so many things that were happening at the time. Being on active duty, you have to put all your energy into what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I found myself being told that you have something that could be in grocery stores. And I'm like, I can't even cook. Like, according to my family, I was the worst cook. So I internalized that you can't
Yeah.
cook, you're too busy to do this,
Hmm.
it's too much work, and it's not like you're gonna make a gajillion dollars, but I was like, "What am I motivated by? Like, why would I even do this?"
Hmm.
But I love my family, and just carrying on the legacy of my grandfather was important enough to at least try,
Hmm.
and I took my savings from active duty, so I'd saved about $25,000, had no financial literacy, so I was gonna buy BMW with it, and so, I mean, that's what I thought, making it was a nice
Yeah.
part. That's
Hmm.
how I grew up. So, um, my mentor was like, "Why don't you take that and invest it into your business? Start out instead of at home, a fully manufactured product that's scalable
Hmm.
and see where it goes." Now, what I wasn't expecting it to turn into what it is now, but yeah, I mean, that whole journey was like, you can hear my toddler giggling in the background. Uh,
Oh, I want to see him. I haven't seen him since he was tiny.
he's over there in race car heaven. I put a
Oh, okay.
race car app on his little iPad. He's
Oh.
um but yeah, this whole journey is about self-discovery and self-actualization, getting to the point where you're okay with you. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that, my grandfather wasn't just handing me a sauce recipe so I could become some, sauce mogul. He's
Mhm.
helping me discover who I am and my strengths and my weaknesses and being okay with all of it.
Charlynda, that gives me chill bumps. It's so true, though.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that little scrap of paper set you on a trajectory that changed your life.
It did. I
Oh,
was,
teary-eyed.
I know. I know. And it's not till years later, right, that you realize what
Mhm.
he had done. Because there was
Yeah,
no conversation about it. He had already passed. It was, 8
yeah.
years after he had passed away that I even started it. And that was
Mhm.
part of the insecurity too. It was like he's not even here, like physically here for me to get his advice. What if I'm
Yeah.
screwing this up? What if
Uh-huh.
this is what I'm supposed to do with this? And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure every entrepreneur has had that gut check of like, what the heck am I doing?
For sure. And if they haven't, there's something wrong with them, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, for y'all that don't know, Charlynda's been on Shark Tank. And so that's an example of getting advice from very, very successful entrepreneurs that you still were like, okay, fine, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it my way.
That was as terrifying as it seems on TV.
Hmm.
And to get rejected there too, you have to try not to internalize all the rejections through time.
Yeah.
That's one person's opinion, or that's in that moment, that's how people felt. But what's guiding you is not determined by other people.
Yeah.
It's really in here. And for some, it's almost like when you go to boot camp, and I'm telling the young soldiers, like, when you get there is a start date of boot camp and there is a end date of boot camp. What you experience at boot camp is a test, and
Hmm.
you have to get your heart and your head ready more than your body, because
Hmm.
they're going to tell you that a whole bunch of adjectives. They're going to call you a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, they're there to push you and to say things and see if you internalize it.
Yeah.
Or if you push past it and say, no, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be in this uniform. I
Hmm.
will support and defend the Constitution. Like, you have to know it, just like
Yeah.
you have to know why you decided to become an entrepreneur. Shark Tank, I got there. I was only 6 months old as a business. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I've only been in business for 6 months, but that was the feedback. Like, how do you know this thing's going to stand the test of time? Just because your
Yeah.
grandfather's sauce was good doesn't mean the business is
That's so
going to
true.
make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But I love though that and the advice they gave was good, and it would have been the best advice for a lot of people because they told you that you needed to do it full time, right? That you couldn't do it when you were
Yeah.
still active duty or whatever. And so for most people that would be true. And so I'm not saying that the advice was bad, but you believe in yourself and you knew what you could do. And that's the thing that I love is that when we're able to take the advice that people give us and adjust it to ourselves and, you know, take it into account, but just don't take everything just as law just because somebody else said it, even if they're really successful.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get a peek at him.
Hey, boy, how are ya? Oh my gosh. What'd he say?
He's talking about some drawing game that he has, and he's like, "I'm unbothered by whatever is going on right now."
He's so cute. I remember when he
It's
was
not
a
getting
newborn, Charlynda.
I know. He was the true pandemic baby. Um, the pandemic clock for some people, they're like, "How long have we been in quarantine?" I'm like, "Let me see. How old is he?"
And I think when I first met you, he didn't even get to come home from the hospital at first, right? Because of the pandemic. He had
He
to
had,
stay in there
he had
longer.
jaundice, and they were so afraid,
Yeah.
to let him go,
Uh-huh.
that they made us stay. But, that's when I was learning about the pandemic, was in there, when I was like,
Yeah.
he's a high risk baby during a global pandemic. What?
It's like you're in a movie, right? You're
Yeah.
like you're in some movie and all this stuff is happening outside the building and you're in this bubble.
even they, acted nervous to tell me the situation, like
Oh,
the
wow.
gravity of the situation, because they said, you have a couple choices. You could either stay here in the hospital for a very long time,
Mhm.
or no. Well, at the time they're like, well, they're saying on the news it's only going to be 2 weeks, so you stay extra 2 weeks, or you can take this baby home. So
Oh, and you did the 2 weeks?
we did. We stayed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I
And then
thought.
took him home, and he was in quarantine his whole life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much he's grown. He's growing into such a handsome young man.
Yeah, he's full 3-year-old now. He's a
Oh, I miss
full
those
3.
days. My babies are 33 and 35.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're all grown up. Yep. So tell us about your book. Rock Bottom has a trampoline.
Yeah, Rock Bottom has a trampoline. You nailed it. Back, it was like 2018 or 19. I gave a speech and talked about, how everything that you've been through, even the bad things, have a purpose.
Yes.
And so I was looking at those rock bottom moments for so long, feeling beat up inside. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want anybody to know the hot mess behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But it serves a good purpose. Somebody is waiting to hear your testimony because they're stuck in the dark, and you coming out of it is the light.
Yeah. They think everybody else has these perfect lives and they're the only ones. So they feel stupid, they feel like a loser, and they're afraid to talk about it because they're afraid that everybody else is going to look down on them.
Mm-hmm. And that's how, publicly you've won this award. I'd won the Bob Evans $25,000 and the celebrity mentor of Daymond John. So there was a lot of almost embarrassment to tell people that behind the scenes everything was a wreck.
Yeah. Well, you told me, was it to accept that, or was it for something else about the dress that you told me that you got, that you kept the tag on?
Oh yeah, I went to an event. So this is after I had moved into the apartment. So I left my marriage. I had moved into an apartment that wasn't furnished, and I immediately got invited to Hillvet's 100, which is like this $1,000 plate, really posh dinner honoring veterans, right? And I was like, I don't have anything. So my apartment was right across from the mall, the Pentagon City Mall. Walked in there, got dressed. I got a dress. I went to another lady who had the kiosk to do makeup and stuff. I walked in there. I was like, hey, do my hair, makeup. They're like, you want to try out this curling iron? Sure, let's do it. And I'm looking at my clock like, okay.
Hurry up.
Got into the Uber, showed up, there's pictures, and I'll share them as soon as the book comes out. But you look at these pictures and you're like, oh, wow, what a glamorous life.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm in there like in the Uber, like tucking the tag. So I can take this very expensive dress back. Yeah.
I love that. And again, to the outside world, they're like, Charlynda has made it. Look at Miss Glamour Puss. Look at her. She's made it. And inside, you're probably feeling like a fraud, but you're not going to give in to it. You're still going to put up that front. I love it.
Yeah.
One of the other stories that I love from you is, and it may have been one of the contests before Shark Tank, when you were like on your way out and you heard that they were having a pitch contest. You remember what I'm talking about? And you were running through the building.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
You just have so many good stories.
So before Shark Tank, this is how I actually got onto Shark Tank.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It was the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Conference, and I wasn't chosen. So they only chose 10. I wasn't chosen. I was going to tuck my tail and go home. The person that I brought there, my graphic designer who made the Mutt Sauce logo, he accompanied me, and I was like, I'm going to go get drinks because I'm depressed because I didn't get chosen. And he's like, is that why you're here, to soak up the glory for yourself? Like, what are we here? We're here to support other entrepreneurs. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. He's like, we need to go cheer for them instead of sulking over here in this restaurant about to have margaritas. So when the waiter came, he's like, what would you like? I was like, nothing. We're going back over here. And I was being kind of stubborn and immature about it because I put in a lot of energy to getting my pitch and stuff ready. But when we hit the door, they said, drop your bags and run to the stage now. And, what do? You just drop your bags and run.
Yeah.
So, I didn't
Because
know
they had an extra opening. Is that what it was?
they were gonna. So the pitches were supposed to be 5 minutes, somewhere like 3 to 5 minutes. But they said the next 5 people, like the first 5 people to make it to the stage, they were going to give them 60 seconds.
You were probably knocking down people on the way, weren't you?
Man, I ran track, so I was like, y'all about to see track star here. This is what you're about to get.
I love it.
So I got up there, grabbed the mic. I feel like I blacked out because I don't even know what I said, Lisa. I was like, shut up, and I'm done. I heard the buzzer go off, and then everybody's like clapping, and I'm like, I don't know what I said, but I got off the stage, and this lady, Jacqueline Neal, will never forget her. She's like, do you know who I am? And I was like, usually when you're very, very important, you say stuff like, do you know who I am? And I didn't know. So I was like, no, ma'am, but it's nice to meet you. She's like, I used to sit on the board for Heinz and Kraft. She also, I think, worked with Nestle too. She's just a bad chick.
Wow.
She said, what I do know is that you're in the wrong room and you need to get down the hall as quickly as possible because the Shark Tank producers are also in this building. And she's like, and you can only pitch if you have a bracelet on. So you need to find the lady who's walking out the building right now with the box of bracelets.
Oh my gosh.
And so again, it was like, run. So I ran, caught her at the door. She's like, are you sure? Because you were like number 500. And she was lying. Like, as soon as I got the bracelet and I thought I was going to turn and walk down a long hallway, like the line was right there. And I'm looking down the hall. She's like, yep.
Wow. And you had to wait with several hundred other people until it was your turn.
Forever.
That had to be nerve-wracking.
And the pitch was only 60 seconds. It wasn't.
But then you were chosen to go to the next phase, right?
Yeah, it was a long process.
Know what's so interesting about that is the first thing that you weren't selected for. You weren't selected for this one thing, and I'm not diminishing that at all. But then you go down the hall and you're selected for the next level of the Shark Tank competition, and that's why it's like, just look at everything as a chance, and don't look at don't look at it as a door closing. It's like my friend who she and her husband wrote Go for No. Look at every no as getting you closer to a yes.
Absolutely. The rejection was redirection.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's kind of what has happened so many times when I felt like, oh, I didn't get this opportunity. You're walking into the opportunities you're ready for at that moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes the outcome that you want is not what's meant for you at that time. Like even with the book, I kept saying, I'm going to write a book about this, but it's almost like the story wasn't complete yet. That's the reason why it hadn't happened. And the resources that I needed were not there. But even now with everything going on, having a toddler and working 3 businesses now and doing all this stuff, the timing was still right because the people that I needed to have in my inner circle that could support me to be able to concentrate and write the book.
Yeah.
It was now that happened. Not when I thought of the book, but 3 years later, 5 years later.
Well, and I love what you say on your website about why you did it now also, because most people have already made it and they're already, and people of course look at them and go, sure, it was easy for you. Yeah, you could do it, but I could never do it. And so I love that you're like opening up while you're in the midst of the down and dirty stuff and sharing the real truth with people, and they get to go on the journey with you as you continue to grow, Charlynda.
Well, I felt like this was a better time to tell the story because there's so many millionaires. If you want to relate to a millionaire, there's a million books for that. But where are the books written by the thousandaires working 3
I
jobs.
know, I love that you say you're 1,000 now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, they've already become a cajillionaire. Like they've already made
yeah.
it. They got the house, the Bugatti, all the stuff you see on Instagram. They're like, let me tell
Mhm.
you how you can make it too. I want it to be, I am not above you. I'm beside you.
Yeah.
I am.
And you're still living in the midst of those lessons. If you wait until you're a millionaire, it's like you've gone through so many other lessons that you've gone through lessons that aren't even applicable to most people. And so I just love that you're doing it now and you can still do more books in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's time for that. But
Yeah.
what meant the most to me is having this experience, telling my story, and still being relatable. And I don't
Yeah.
know why that meant a lot to me, but it meant a lot that I can still relate to everything that's in this book. Like right,
Yeah.
I can identify with the challenges. It goes through
Mhm.
social challenges, it goes through financial challenges, personal the inner critic challenges,
Mhm.
and and then things that are societal, like loss and trauma and all those things
Mhm.
that we deal with along the way. I'm living it, and it was very important that I could say I'm living it now.
Yeah.
I'm it might seem like hypocritical advice because I haven't mastered it yet.
Mhm.
But I think that's something that people need more of. They want to see the hot mess. They want to see the behind the
Yeah.
scenes. I would even go on social media. The people that I related to most were the housewives that would show like one corner of the house. She's like, and this is how you put the house together. And then they purposely pan to the other side of the house that has clothes stuffed in the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
I have a client that owns she owns brick and mortar and a e-commerce store, and she does like decorating, consulting, and everything. And she does a lot of that. She'll be, she'll have this awesome video, and then she'll turn around and then she'll be like, and this is what my house really looks like.
yeah.
And I love it. I'm like, yes, I'm at home.
Those, I think, are tomorrow's influential people. The
Yeah.
ones that are transparent and will
Mhm.
show you the mess.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me. It was hard for me to be that person because I was overthinking, maybe someone would be critical if I said, "Oh yeah, I showed up and I had the tag tucked in my dress." Well, why are you going to it? It's like someone's gonna be like, "Well, why'd
Mhm.
you go to the event if you couldn't afford to be there?"
Yeah.
So I just had to let all that go. Had to let
Yeah.
it
It, and I think that you being important to you to be relatable and be real and all that stuff. I also think it, and I may be wrong, but I also think it has a lot to do with family and how you were brought up and being from Tennessee and just that whole,
go.
you know,
All
you came from a real background. You didn't come from a background where people are acting all stuffy and worrying about, and I'm like that too. It's like I just want to be who I am.
yeah, like
I don't want to, as daddy would have said, I don't want to put on airs. It's too much work. I just want to be myself.
just
And
be
so
yourself. Be
when
your
you can
authentic
be
self. That's
yourself, when you can be yourself and have your business and do what you love and work people you love, there's nothing better than that.
oh, absolutely. And you sleep better at night. I tell you,
Yeah.
like you got to live with yourself. You got to
Yeah.
look in the mirror every day, and you
Mhm.
don't want that to be a painful introspective process.
That's
You
right.
want it to feel good. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I
Well,
am.
the other cool thing about you writing the book now, it's a gift to David as well. That's his name, right, David?
Yeah, David Dwayne.
It's a gift to
Buddy.
him because, he's so little now. And by the time he gets old enough that he really remembers,
Yeah.
life may be very different for y'all. And I think it's really cool. It's almost like reading your diary, probably to him.
What was the hardest part, I think, for me was writing the acknowledgement at the end, just to
Uh-huh.
talk about the process. It was, at the very end of every book, you can either do a really short acknowledgement, but
Yeah.
for me, I was like, I don't know if I'll get another chance to write a book. I would be optimistic and say yes, but if this is it, I wanted everybody that was close to me to know how grateful I was for the support, for the protection, for the prayers, for everything that they may have done that they don't know that I was watching or listening to or counting my blessings for. But it was, I ran out. I think my whole eye socket just dried up after a while. It's like
Oh,
I can't produce any more tears.
oh my
There's
goodness.
not any more Kleenex left. It feels like if you knew that you weren't going to be here for much longer and you wanted them to know how you felt.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful.
yeah, I loved writing that acknowledgement section. That was a very rewarding part of the process for me, to just be able to say thank you.
Yeah.
But I also had a gifted collaborator. I guess they call them collaborators now versus ghostwriters. But Brunella, who's also goes by the military editor, she reached out to me years ago when I gave this speech at Military Influencer Conference. She's like, "You need to write your story. I don't care when. I don't want you to forget me. Whenever you're ready to write your story." Because I kept hiding behind this whole "I'm too busy."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, "There's methods." She's like, "You can be authentic and tell your story." She's like, "I can't tell your story better than you can."
Yeah.
But the process, I mean, she pulled stuff out of me that even I don't think that I was thinking deeply about.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think differently about yourself than people on the outside because you're not objective. So you don't look at things in the same way. Now, did she do it by interviewing you, or was it a combination of that and you like doing voice memos just whenever you thought of something, or
Well, it starts out, the process starts out with like this, like a conversation, and she's asking very deep questions about situations, and like I go through rock bottom as a business partner, and she was asking me, "Well, what is it that you were looking for when you were choosing a business partner? What was the surprising part about it? How did you feel when you had to move into her house?" Because I ended up being homeless even when I moved out of my apartment from DC to Ohio, and showed up thinking that I was going to move into a place, and they're like, "Oh, this place is on base." Like, "Oh, you can't be single and live here." Like,
Oh no.
I'm like, "What do you mean?" It was like
Oh,
base housing. Like, you can't live here. I'm like,
oh
I filled
no.
out all the paperwork exactly to a T, and got rejected as soon as we arrived in Ohio.
Uh,
And she's like, "We're going to find storage. We're just going to get a storage facility. It's the middle of the night. We're just going to throw everything out of the truck into the storage facility, and you're going to move in with me." And she didn't
oh
even think
wow.
twice about it. She didn't even think.
Wow. That's an angel.
She was. But we talked, she said, I want you to go into emotional spaces you probably don't want to go to. And that's what I think gives depth to the book. Is
Yeah.
I probably would have laid off talking about some things in detail, but she's like, this is the part that people want to hear. Like, this is, if you stop just at she got you to Ohio, that's one thing. To say you ended up having to live with the person who was working for you. She started out as your assistant and you ended up living with her.
Yeah.
Go there. So that process, we start out talking, and then you start looking at the manuscript saying, is there enough detail here? Every chapter ends with a lesson. So if you're in this situation, this is what I did. And if I was mentoring you, this is what I would tell you to do. So I don't want to leave it with just like, this is rock bottom.
Right. Yeah. Yay. So is it available for pre-order now?
It will be next week. So
Okay.
we have pre-orders will open. I think it's somewhere around the 15th or 16th of October, and then on the 31st, you'll start getting the actual books. Like live orders of the book will happen. I will be at Military Influencer Conference again,
Awesome.
and then I'll probably have a backpack full of.
Yeah, you will, girl. You got to take them everywhere. Well, I can't wait to read it. Collar's going to be at Military Influencer Conference with Hilarious, Operation Hilarious, the comedians that they're doing the thing, all over the country to find the funniest veterans and military spouses and stuff, and they're having their finale there, the grand finale.
Oh,
So he'll
wow.
be
Yeah,
out
that's
there
gonna
with
be fun.
them. Yeah, so I'll have to tell him to look you up. Y'all can get to meet each other.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reconnecting with, all the old comrades, all of our buddies from the
Mhm.
years past and meeting some new folks too. I miss, I think what was public was last year. I miss it because David had the seizure from COVID.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that was really scary and last, right before MIC. So
Mhm. Yeah,
just
I
feeling.
missed it last year as well. I had
Mhm.
tickets and stuff, and I missed it, and I didn't even get tickets this year because with everything we have going on, I knew that I wouldn't probably be able to go, just
Yeah,
for people out there. I just have a lot of stuff going on, my family right now, and family comes first.
family's
So,
everything. Family's
but
everything.
there's so many people that are gonna be there that I know and love so much, and I'm gonna be sad to miss being out there with y'all.
Vegas, we'll take pictures. Look, I might even FaceTime you or something so you
That
can.
would be awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Charlynda, I can't wait to read the book. I'm so excited because I know there's gonna be a ton of things in there that I've never even heard you talk about, and even the things that you have talked about, it'll be more in depth and raw, so I'm really, really excited about that.
Well, I'm always happy to call you friend, and I've had your support over the years, and I just I'm excited about an opportunity to bond with people on a deeper level,
Yeah,
because you never know who might have a shared experience.
that's right. Yeah, and I love your tagline, moniker, whatever, the like-hearted mentor. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that.
Uh,
Before we go, tell everybody your other things because we said I said you're a serial entrepreneur, but I didn't tell them about anything other than Mutt sauce.
oh yeah, sure. So there's two companies, both by the same name. There's O Taste Marketing and O Taste Foundation. And so O Taste Marketing is a for-profit that I started a couple years after Mutt Sauce, and I use that as like my personal mentorship organization that I can take in clients and mentor them through their own rock bottoms. And then the O Taste Foundation is a nonprofit that we started with two other food founders here in Dayton, Ohio. So we were building a commercial kitchen space for food entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay. I don't know if y'all could see me or not. It was spinning. I could still hear you, but I couldn't see me or you.
Oh,
So I
I saw
hope.
your nice smile.
Oh, well, good. Hopefully, I don't know what just happened. Hopefully, everybody out there wasn't interrupted hearing you. So I wanted to ask you the O Taste thing. Does that stand for Ohio? Because you're in Dayton, Ohio?
Well, I let people believe that if that's what they want to believe, but it's actually one of my favorite Bible verses. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good.
Oh, I love that. I'm so glad that I asked.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
I
now that means so much more.
So I try in my own way because I had this thing in my family. It's like I always want to make sure that I have my faith in front. Like it
Yeah.
guides who I am to believe in something bigger than yourself. So
Mhm.
even the quote "Rock bottom has a trampoline." When I gave it at MIC, it says, "If you believe in something bigger than yourself, rock bottom has a trampoline." Because that lack of humility of faith is where some people get at rock bottom and they feel like no one cares about me, no one
Yeah.
loves me, no one's with me. So even if you're in the cave by yourself, you're
Mhm.
not alone. And
Yeah.
that's how I felt in that apartment was I'm by myself, but I'm not by myself.
Yeah.
And
That's so beautiful and it's so true. And if you're working towards a higher purpose besides for just yourself, that also keeps you going. It makes you get up if you feel like there are
mhm.
other people who depend on you, David, your family, but
Yeah.
also the cause, the other people around you,
Mhm.
and that's why I love working so much with most of my clients are people who want to integrate a higher purpose in with their business.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it's not that they've never had a higher purpose, but most people are so focused on just making money that all of a sudden they look around, they're like, okay, well, I'm making really good money, but I feel empty,
Yeah.
and so I help them figure out, So anyway, I just love stuff like that.
Have you ever heard that quote? Some people are so poor, all they have is money.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it
Well,
reminds me of.
well,
Like,
we're rich. But it's so true. My sisters and I talk all the time about how we're so glad that we were raised the way that we were. We grew up in poverty level, but we didn't know it until we went to college. And I learned in sociology that I was poverty level. I was like, oh, okay, but our parents were very self-sufficient. My father was blind, I think you know that. But my parents were both very self-sufficient. They did stuff and made stuff, and they were very curious, and they always learned. And so my sisters and I, that's just the way that we were brought up. Always be curious about stuff, learn and figure out how to do stuff. And I feel sorry for people who are so dependent on other people for everything. They don't really even know how to do stuff for themselves. I don't know
yeah.
if that makes sense, but being
Well,
self-sufficient.
it's a different generation, even
Yeah,
now, I think about the pandemic babies, they were so sheltered. My
I
son
know.
never really had to I mean, it was almost overload of protection.
Yeah,
So how's that gonna translate to when they're older
yeah,
and, what environment are they growing up in? So I think it
yeah.
is kinda like how the environment in which we were raised. Same with
Mhm.
my granddad. He was
Yeah.
nothing's ever handed to you, you will work for it, and that's
Mhm.
why it's so hard to just accept that he gave me a piece of paper. I'm like,
Yeah,
"No, I gotta work for this. I don't know
yeah.
what work."
I just though, it's just such a beautiful story, and the fact that y'all were missing his sauce, at the family gatherings and
Yeah.
everything, and then, you didn't even know he left it to you at first, right?
No, I thought he left it to his children. He had
That's what I thought, yeah, and
5,
one
yeah.
day your mom told you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I guess she told you when she thought it was the right time to tell you.
yeah, she said, "If you ever asked about it, that was my cue to let you know." And, I
Yeah.
was eating something, I was like, this is terrible, this needs sauce. I don't know who's got the recipe." And turns out, I was like, "It's you."
Oh,
It's
wow.
yeah.
That is so cool. I do, I love the sauce. My husband loves it too. We keep it
Uh-huh,
on there inside our refrigerator in the door. It's
uh-huh.
delicious. So y'all go check out Mutt sauce. Charlynda, tell everybody how they can connect with you, learn more about you, buy your book, all that good stuff. Buy Mutt sauce and everything.
Well, first, you gotta go and get more copies of Disrupt Your Now, alright? So y'all make sure y'all
Please,
support.
yes. And I also have the workbook. I don't have it here, but I have a workbook for it called Disrupt My Now.
Oh,
And it's
Imma
to
get one of
help.
those. Is it
Yeah,
can I get it on your website or is
yeah,
it
but I'll send you one.
no, no,
Um,
I'm gonna buy it. No, no.
okay, yeah, it's on my website, but it's also on Amazon. But the reason I did that is because so many people, even though this has like all those chapters, that lessons and questions to ask yourself, a lot of people don't know how to get down deep inside themselves.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were talking about the woman that you're working with. And so I did the workbook to help for people who can't afford to work with me, to help them work through, you know,
I like that.
thinking through all this stuff. So
I like
that's
that.
why, but yeah, it's called Disrupt My Now.
I like this. See? Look at you.
Well, I always say, what are you waiting for? Tomorrow never comes, because most people are like, one day I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to do that. And all they do is dream about the future. And I'm like, you don't know if you even have tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's a saying by, I believe it's Anthony Hopkins. And
Okay.
it says, today is the tomorrow that you were so worried about yesterday. So
Oh,
it's kind of the inverse of what I'm talking about. But people spend so much time worry, worry, worry
yeah.
that they're not living in the now. It's like they're
Mhm.
dead to today. They're
Mhm.
always either living in the past or thinking about the future. They're not living now and acting now and do so. Anyway, that's why I wrote Disrupt Your
That's
Now.
great advice because I identify with that. There's so many people who are
Mhm.
tired of living the hamster wheel.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
looks like a hamster wheel, and they talk about what they're going to do, and you check
Mhm.
check with them the next year. Did you do it? No. And I was that person too. I was like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a book.
Yeah.
Good on you. But there's got to come a time where you're sick of it yourself. You're sick of hearing it, like
Yes.
of it being the same back channel. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of either finding an accountability partner who can call you out on your, tell you about yourself,
Yep.
or just make a concerted effort to say, by this time, a SMART goal, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And not
little goals at a time, something
Mhm.
every day or whatever, instead of
Yeah.
waiting until you think you're going to do everything all at once. I do think the one good thing, or one of the good things that came out of COVID, I do think it made people realize, you know what, the hamster wheel ain't all it's cut out to be. Money isn't there. It made a lot of people take a deeper look at their life instead of just buying into the whole, whatever. And whenever I talk about stuff like that, I always clarify, I'm not saying that money's bad. I'm not saying that at all, but too often we're so concerned about our car and our house and our this and our that and the keeping up with the Joneses, and we're not thinking about what's really important.
Oh, yeah.
And then a lot of times people get too old and it's too late, or
That's so true. I mean, I think the pandemic was a big wake up call for me because I was like, I have a child. I'm
Yeah.
staring at zero revenue for my
Yeah,
business.
I'm sorry. I forgot to ask you if you would share that. What happened with you? Because they're probably wondering, how'd you have zero revenue? Because that was a huge thing when we first met that you were going through.
Yeah, that was terrifying. I didn't realize how bad my business model was till the pandemic. I was mainly in-person events, festivals, so anything where you have to interact with people, and manual labor be outside. So it was a lot of trading time for money.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how much of a risk that is to your well-being, that all of your money is dependent upon you being present or you doing something to get
Yeah.
paid. And to wake up in that hospital room, learn about the pandemic, turn your phone on, and every single thing that you have booked for that year is canceled, but no refunds. Grocery stores won't allow food demonstrations, so you can't market to people in the grocery stores. Yeah, and you don't have a website selling Mutt sauce, so you're sitting there with a newborn trying to figure out how to turn on muttsauce.com e-commerce,
Yeah.
So that was a uphill climb that didn't need to happen. I had gone to a conference to talk about in the book how Gary Vaynerchuk had told me, you need your business model is wrong, and he said it 3 years before the pandemic.
Wow.
He
Because it
said,
was so dependent on you.
Yeah, he says, so dependent on you, and that's not the way that the world is moving. And you need to change it around. It's like you're trying to get into grocery stores, but they don't know you because you don't have enough of a presence online. He said, you're doing it backwards, basically.
Yeah.
He said, you need to be online with your presence so big that the grocery stores are in your inbox saying, will you be in my store? Versus you being in their inbox saying, can I be in your store?
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So, and he said, and then you'll discover you might not even need them.
Yep.
And that's really kind of what the pandemic did. It's like, if you don't adapt, you will not survive.
Yeah. The other thing though that I also advise my clients is, don't depend too much on the internet, because it could easily flip the other way. We could have like an electromagnetic pulse or something, and then everything online is gone. And so it's like you always have to be, and in my business, my core business is web development and marketing strategy and stuff. So I'm saying that from the angle of somebody who loves the internet. I've been doing that for 30 whatever since 1996. So it's not like I'm like, oh, internet's bad, but it's just like you always have to be aware. And so
well, how do you feel about everything going on in the globe right now? I mean, we hear so much about what's going on with, it's like China, specifically China, right? They're so developed and they're so focused on the United States. And where are we technologically? If there was a war that was just cyber, right?
Yeah.
Where would we be? How would we fare there?
to me, that's terrifying. But I'll also say, during World War II, not that either one of us were alive then, but during World War II, when we needed to, the manufacturers could flip around and make adjustments and make the things that the country needed. We have very few manufacturers anymore.
Right.
So for like 20 years, I've been like, oh my God, we could not do what we did during um, World War II. And I mean,
Yeah.
and I say that from being on the board of economic development groups and stuff. So,
Wow.
trying to get manufacturers to come back from overseas. But that's another thing that COVID did, is it made a lot of these companies realize, well, yeah, we can save pennies that add up to millions, but we're so dependent, and so a lot that's turning around. But no, I don't even allow myself to think about it that much, Charlynda, because it's terrifying to me.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
not a worrier, but when I think about that, I'm like, there's no way we're ready for something like that. And everything that we have is so dependent on digital. And, I mean, kids don't even know how to handwrite anymore,
I
um,
can't do cursive, and
yeah.
most adults can't read a map. So
Yeah, but I also am one of these people that I try to worry about the things that I can control and not
exactly.
ignore the things that I can't control. Acknowledge them in my head, but try to not worry about them, because I could drive myself crazy if I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pick the things that you really worry about. But no, the difference in America and companies like China and Russia is we don't have their patience in the Middle
Mm,
East. They've been for decades buying property in America, getting our companies over there very patiently building towards this time. And we get fat and lazy,
yeah.
and
And
it's,
not and unfocused.
yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
soft,
Well,
soft,
you're right though. We can focus on what we can control and what we
Yeah,
can do, because ripples make waves. So
yeah.
in our own way, making some ripples and
Well, and you have your Mutt sauce, so even if you couldn't sell online, you could still make that stuff at home and sell it.
look,
You know?
hey, I would be bartering sauce,
I
Lisa.
know, I know. Um, but that's the other thing about your book too, that'll be passive income. And there's so much that you can build out from that just around that book,
Yeah.
courses and speaking engagements and all kinds of stuff.
Well, that I'll have to say, like, you know, that's the one thing that I'd been
Mhm,
most afraid of throughout the years. If there was any fear that I had, it was the fear of
mhm.
success, like actual success of what people think about when they
Yeah.
hear that.
Mhm.
Monetary success, being known. I was looking at anonymity and being able to say, I don't have no money, it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
my brokenness was a badge of honor. And
Uh-huh.
that's just, I cannot continue like that if I want to take care of my son.
That's right.
I don't have many years left of being
Mhm.
physically able to trade time for money. So I've got to be
Mhm.
smart about how he's taken care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big driver.
Well, and I think that's a common thing that people feel like, I'm afraid to be successful, and like you said, having it as a badge of honor. I remember there was a guy I dated during college. He was from my hometown,
Mm,
and he used to give me a hard time. He'd be like, "You're gonna forget where you came from," and it turned into this thing almost like, I, it's not that he wanted to help hold me back, but I could feel myself almost holding myself back because I was like, I don't want people to
yeah,
think I'm better than they are, or that,
yeah.
then I was like, oh, whatever.
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
and that's the other thing too, is internalizing other people's fear, because what
yeah,
I do know happens is your circle changes. And
yeah.
there might be a fear that they're projecting of, if she does
Hmm.
get to that level, I'm no longer, you know,
That's
in her.
exactly what he was thinking, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, it's like a lot of times our friends and our family are the ones who are the most critical of us. Now, partly it's because they worry about us and they wanna make sure that we're okay, but also partly it's the fear of losing us. What if we outgrow them? you know.
Mhm.
So, and of course, if it's your family, you want
Yeah.
to assure them in some way, but that's very common. So anybody out there dealing with people who are close to them, if you feel like that, that's a very common thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought that up about the badge of honor thing, because I think a lot of people deal with that.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that someone would say like, "Oh, you got bougie, didn't you? You got
Yeah.
you got brand new. Now you are the gajillionaire. Like,
Uh-huh.
what now? Don't write any more books. You're unrelatable." Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
I cannot wait to read it.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. It's cathartic. I feel like it's been a healing journey for me. Some of this stuff has
Mhm.
been held inside and making me physically ill, just holding in all the memories.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to get it off my chest. I'm glad to share it in hopes that it's a light for someone else who's sitting in the
Mhm.
darkness, saying like nobody's ever been $1,500 in the hole. And I'm like, yeah, I have.
Yeah. A lot more than 1,500,
Yeah,
right?
like, yeah, girl.
I need to join your Facebook group.
Yeah,
I
I
follow
have
your
a
site, you have
Facebook
that
group,
Facebook group. Mhm.
the Rock Bottom Recovery Club, and I've been
Yeah.
sharing stuff in there already,
Okay.
that you can go in, get a sneak peek of the
Okay.
book and just videos that I've held. I kinda kept a video journal of everything.
That's
Like,
great.
maybe one day I'll look back on it and say, "Wow, I can't believe you you went through that." Um,
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you did that, and you can also use that as accompanying content with the book, which you said you're already doing. But,
mhm.
you can use it in courses that you do and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to see how far I come, but I know that it's good to show rather than tell. Like,
Yeah.
when you can see the video of my apartment tour of the cot that I was sleeping on,
Mhm.
it hits home more than me just saying, "Yeah, I slept on a cot." Anybody can say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I slept on a cot," but
Yeah. Well, and you won't ever forget either, because a lot of times we go through this stuff, and as time goes by, it kind of starts getting muddy and we forget the details. So
mhm.
20 years from now, you're not going to forget because you got the book and you got the video.
Nobody will probably let me forget. The internet is forever.
I know. Okay, so I interrupted you before when I asked you how people could connect with you and all that stuff. We
Oh,
we started talking again,
I can talk to
so
you for
tell them how they can connect with you and how they can get your book and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so at Charlynda Jean, Jean, Charlynda Jean is all my social, Facebook, Instagram. I'm even on TikTok and Twitter. I don't know what's going on with
Mhm.
what do you call it? X. Uh,
Yeah.
and charlyndajean.com gives you insight to the book and my bio so you can see some of the organizations that I support now. And not just my companies, but just I'm on for a few boards like Bunker Labs and
Mhm.
um, where else? Muttsauce.com. You can go to muttsauce.com if you want to learn more about Mutt Sauce. And Otaste Foundation is otaste.org.
Okay. Yes, y'all go buy her book when it's available, and buy you some Mutt sauce and connect with Charlynda on
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you like to hang out at. And I will send you a Disrupt My Now copy, Charlynda. I think I still have your mailing
I
address.
want to buy it. I'm gonna buy it. So if you send
Well,
me a copy, I'm still gonna buy another one. But
okay, all right.
the love is
Well,
there.
thank you so much for joining me tonight. You know I love you so much, and I haven't gotten to
Mhm.
talk with you in a couple years, so I'm really glad to catch up.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks. Mwah.
Mhm.
See ya. Bye-bye. Hang on.